Today on the Self Smarter podcast.
We all have natural gifts. Mm-hmm. However, if we're not in a position to truly understand what those are and how to leverage them, we can sometimes not take full advantage of what we've been naturally gifted with. Hi, we're Danelle and Megan, the hosts of this conversation-centric podcast for leaders seeking to be better every day. Whether you choose to be a leader in the workplace, at home, or in your community, we believe the most effective leaders are equipped to not only be self-starters, but self-smarter.
Hello and welcome to Self Smarter. I'm Megan and this is my friend and co-host Danelle.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
You know, we're recording on kind of
a weird day.
Well, I don't know is it weird anymore?
Isn't it weird?
Friday the 13th. That's our record day. This is probably going to launch at the end of January, but
what's weirder? Is that even a word? What's more weird?
I don't know. Jordan will fix
Friday
it.
the 13th. Yeah. Friday the 13th or Mercury in retrograde.
Well, I don't believe. First of all, I never bought into Friday the 13th.
No.
But I certainly believe in Mercury in retrograde, and we're right in the middle of it, and boy, we can feel it.
Don't worry, listeners. In case you don't know what Mercury in retrograde is, I'm going to put a link in the show notes for you.
And I'm telling you, this one is, you need to pay attention.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be over. Will it be over when this airs?
Yes.
Okay.
But we will have several other bouts of this throughout the year.
Yes. So if you've had a interesting January relative to
travel issues,
computer,
even
tech,
during the
having problems getting contracts signed.
Even in December with all that mess, that was all retrograde.
You mean the Southwest Airlines debacle?
I didn't want to say their name.
Oh, you didn't.
But
oops, sorry.
There's that.
There's
fine.
that.
It's fine. It was publicly addressed to them, so let's just lean in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm doing fine despite it being Mercury in retrograde and Friday the 13th.
I'm re-questioning, am I okay? Should I be okay? That's funny. All right. I wanted to mention to you, and our listeners, there's a podcast called We Can Do Hard Things that we love. And if you haven't heard us talk about it before, or if you don't know what that is, don't worry. I'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Right. But it's Glennon Doyle, Abby Wambach, and then Glennon's sister. It is lovingly called Sister on the podcast, but her name is Amanda. Yes, and we love this podcast.
Love it. It's so good. It's very inspirational and from a leadership perspective and personal development. So highly recommend it, but don't stop listening to Self Smarter, guys.
No, just add it too.
Yeah.
I think they release twice a week.
They release a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Long story long, they had a guest this week named Tracy Ellis Ross.
Yes.
If you know, you know. She is an actor, very accomplished, Emmy Award winning actress.
Yes.
She is also daughter of Diana Ross.
Queen Bee. Yes.
It's just an interesting perspective. We'd like for you to listen to it. It's an interesting perspective on turning 50.
Yes. Yes.
Which
so I never know.
About.
I do. And I'm not trying to rush 51, but I'm looking forward to the year of.
I really can't believe it.
Yes, I can't believe it. I know.
Let's not talk about that.
But at the end, but I did, because this is kind of how it goes between the two of us, is that one of us might catch an episode first before the other. But Meg, I mean, it was like 911, stop what you're doing and listen to this podcast. And I finally got around to it. And I mean, I literally.
That 911 worked out real well.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that.
You're like, 2 days from now.
I'll get on it in a minute.
Yes.
Anyway, it is absolutely one of the best ones I've ever heard. I was so emotional. And I do think it's because I can relate to so much of what she's saying, having lived this milestone year. But it is so chocked full of wisdom.
Gosh.
And not just from her, but the things she quotes from her friends.
Yes.
And then what she talks about, the way she talks about her mom and just standing in her own strength, and versus being an object up there, but standing in her strength. And there's so many incredible analogies and antidotes in that conversation with the four of them. I just think it's one of the best. So I'm glad you brought it up because I've been sending it to people and sharing it because it is absolutely phenomenal.
Good. She's launching a new podcast, which I'm sure this is part of her launch.
Yes.
Plan is to be on this podcast.
It's a limited series podcast, by the way.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's like 10 episodes or something, but it's about America and it has a particular twist, but I can't exactly remember. But,
yeah. I think it's called I Am America. It's something like that.
It is like that.
Mm-hmm. But check it out. Also check out We Can Do Hard Things. There was a quote that Tracy mentions during, and I just, it circled me back to our gaslighting episode, which is episode 45.
Okay.
And she was talking in the context of this quote is she was talking to a friend and she was saying how she's always questioning herself. Tracy, she's like, I'm always questioning myself. I'm not good enough.
Yeah,
and
she
we
talks
all
a lot,
do that.
and she does a beautiful job of describing what our inner critic sounds like.
Yes,
and we
talked about inner critic in our last episode.
Yes.
So the quote is, it isn't the story you're telling, it's the questions you're asking.
Right, that's the antidote to overcoming sometimes that inner critic.
Yes.
I thought that was beautiful.
It's so good because it's so true. And we talk about this a lot, about asking good questions.
Yes.
What about to yourself?
I know. I hadn't even thought about it that way.
Wow. So she opened my eyes and yours too. That's really good.
Yes.
So listen to it, y'all. Tell us what you think about it. Happy to
so
share good stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Also, I wanted to note for the people that watch us on YouTube, first of all, hi, I'm waving to you. Hi. We have changed the angles of our cameras. I don't know.
To accommodate my age.
Yeah, so I want to thank David for that because just you. I said to him, listen, there's a new angle women like, and it's up high and you put the camera down angle. Like you don't go up my nose. You go up and then you go down my nose.
Okay.
So anyway, I hope you guys notice.
He was very accommodating to our vanity.
Our vanity. Yeah. Thank you, David.
Yes.
We're just so grateful for your trickery and skills with video.
Cameras. Okay.
All right. Before we jump into our big topic, let's hop to advertisement. Happy New Year, Self Smarter listeners. We're so grateful that you're hanging with us each week and doing the work and focusing on your leadership growth. Because you're so amazing, we've decided to offer you a gift. We've got Self Smarter desk calendars for 2023 that we're happy to ship right to your door if you want. To get one of these nifty calendars, all you have to do is go to selfsmarterpodcast.com, fill out the form, and our team will send you one to keep you on track and motivated in 2023. If not, that's okay too.
I'm really excited about these calendars.
Yay.
Okay, so for our listeners, the calendars are a thing at DMA. We've been producing them.
Date-centric.
We are, we're marketers. We have to be date-centric.
Timeline, yo.
Timeline.
Timeline.
Exactly. So calendars are a big deal, and we've tried different versions and different sizes. And we finally found the magic size, the magic style, I don't know, 5-6 years ago.
Yeah,
and we've been running with it
so
as a company,
who knew?
DMA, right? So when we're thinking about what can we do for our listeners, our self-smarter listeners, what kind of cool swag can we come up with for the new year? I don't know, was it Jordan's idea?
Yes.
Of course, and that we do calendars. So we're really excited, and as the advertisement spoke to, you can go sign up on our website, and we'll get you one in the mail. And I have them everywhere. Mm-hmm. I mean, I take
Me too.
my allotment of calendars. I may take a few others, but I absolutely love them, and we think you're going to love them too. They have great quotes in them, and of course, our amazing design team made them look really nice and pretty, so they'll look good on your desk or wherever you may have them. So anyway, please go sign up, and we would be honored to get you one in the mail.
When I see it on my desk, I always think about our listeners.
Me too.
I think about people out there that are listening and like absorbing what we're talking about and going through this journey with us. It's really brings me a joyful feeling.
Beyond actually listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
I agree. So anyway, we would love for you to have one. Like I said, head to the website and sign up.
All right. So today we're talking about leveraging your natural gifts by Enneagram number to enhance your leadership skills. I thought it would be nice if you opened by saying why we're talking about this today.
Well, first and foremost, the Enneagram content that we published in our first year of existence on the podcast, so last year in 2022, it was the Enneagram episodes were among the most downloaded, most listened to, and shared.
Yes.
And most often the ones where we would get a tremendous amount of engagement. People wanted to talk about it.
Y'all love Enneagram.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is that even beyond, for the folks that have taken the test, they know their number. And what we know to be true, we've been studying this for probably 8 or so years. There's always some new way to think about the number. And that could be that you're learning, you're going through a new season in your life. You're learning something new. You're maybe in a new leadership position. Maybe you've hired someone new. Maybe you have a new person in your life. Maybe your child is now a teenager who's now becoming an adult. I mean, there's so many moments and times where this type of information, whether it's about yourself and your own self-knowledge and awareness, or someone else that you're interacting with. And so much of what we're finding, because we worry, is this a topic that people are getting bored with?
Yeah.
But the numbers and the engagement, is that you want more. So we're finding ways to present leadership lessons, but then applying them by type so that these episodes are a little bit more personalized for you. And again, if you know your dominant number, don't ignore all the other numbers. I mean, I know as a 7, I tend to get really excited when the 7s come around. But at the same time, because of the relationship that we all have with all 9 numbers, it's important to really know them, know these things about the other number. Exactly. Or you work with, And so anyway, that's why we are kicking off, one of our first episodes this year with a new Enneagram episode. So we hope you enjoy it. And what we're doing this time is, like Meg said, we're going to talk about the leveraging your natural gifts. So some of this will be a little bit repetitive if you listen to our previous episodes about the strengths, but I think it's good to remind ourselves of the strengths. And then what we're going to do is then also talk about the detractors by each number. And then the real meat of this episode is what to cultivate in order for your natural gifts by your Enneagram type. So that's essentially how we're going to present this information. And again, and if you've been listening to these episodes, you know that we start Enneagram is literally a graph. So the 9 numbers, and 9 is at the 12 spot if you're thinking about it being almost like a clock. And so we start with the 9s. And this time, Meg and I are going to toggle between the numbers. So you're not just listening to me rattle on for the whole episode. So I say we get started. Did I miss anything?
The only thing I would add is for me too, I like to listen to stuff about 9s as well, because you like to listen to 7s. You like to hear about yourself. And sometimes I'll replay episodes that we published or someone else published to hear if there's someone in my life who I know is going through something. And if I can help them, I listen to theirs.
To their numbers.
For this episode, it'll be great if you know someone who's going through a transition or someone who is looking to improve in their work.
Right.
Potentially be promoted, moved, shifted, yourself, maybe somebody else. Listen to what to cultivate, because you're in the seat to be able to help them to do that.
Yeah, because we all have natural gifts. However, if we're not in a position to truly understand what those are and how to leverage them, we can sometimes not take full advantage of what we've been naturally gifted with.
That's exactly right.
So this stuff, again, I think this information that we're presenting, it's not groundbreaking. It's wonderful reminders, especially for those who are already on this journey of the Enneagram, which I know a lot of our listeners are clearly. So I think it's just a really good reminder of things we need to keep top of mind. So let's kick off and let's start with our beloved type 9s, our peacemakers. So their strengths are they have a desire to connect, they're open-minded, friendly, likable, tuned into their environment, and most often humble. And the detractors, they struggle with being unable to access their own agenda or desires. They have difficulty owning power, and indecision typically can plague them. And they can be passive aggressive at times because, and that can also stem from their fear of conflict. So because they don't want there to be conflict, their response can come across as passive aggressive at times. So
True story.
True story. As I look at my friend across the table. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
And so then what 9s need to remember in order to cultivate their natural talents is to make an effort to be in tune with their emotions and be considerate of yourself. So 9s, consider it to yourself. And I think you're naturally considerate of others. But I think in your growth and your power, your power stance is to remember yourself in that and make yourself uncomfortable by being proactive and saying what you think and taking a position. Also, consider all that you're doing well as the way to build confidence and trust yourself. Welcome disagreements. They don't have to be bad.
Woo, that was a big lesson to learn.
It was, and I watched you learn it, and you and Jesse both, and Drew also is a 9, and as I've watched all of you be on this journey that we're on, I think that's some of the I guess the most visible work I've seen you all do is stand with your opinions, express them, but then also be uncomfortable in conversations or in interactions where there might be a rub. And what I love about engaging in those times with 9s is you do prove to me, I think all numbers have some version of a fear of conflict, which maybe maybe the exception of two numbers, and I'm not going to name what they are.
We're not going to point them out, but we all know who they are.
But we all know who they are. But you all have taught me that because I'll just run from it, period. And you will also not necessarily want to face them 9s, but when you do, you bring such a calmness to conversations or ideas that where there could be a difference. And so I just want to point that out for the 9s.
Which is hard work for us to do. Yeah.
But when you do it, you're some of the best at is what I'm saying.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
That's what I've witnessed with the 9s in my life.
Yay. All right. Let's move on to the reformer, which is Enneagram type 1. Mm-hmm. Strengths of the reformer is precision, ethical, trustworthy, being correct, and thoughtful. Detractors for the 1 is self-righteousness. Anger can tend to leak as resentment or annoyance. They usually show it on their face. I'll just side note that. They can be what is perceived as tense and or make others feel tense. Overly detailed would be one that I know that our ones here would say. And that they are focused on logic versus people. So what to cultivate ones, if you're listening, and for the ones in your life, help focus on connecting with people. Start there. Focus on the connection with humans, not just the facts. And work at being amiable. I think that's a good tip. Acknowledge that there may be different ways to get to the same end result. Think in less black and white. Challenge yourself to think in more gray, which you and I have talked about for a long time.
Oh gosh, Marci and I.
Yeah.
Our poster child type 1. I mean, we say it all the time. Like she lives in black and white, and I am endlessly in a gray world.
Shades of gray. And then because of the tense detractor and making other people feel tense, I think this is a nice tip to help elevate that thoughtfulness. Is to smile at people, nod your head in agreement, be very interactive with people. That's going to help form that connection. And I wrote down people like people who smile.
It's interesting because the ones that we know, and I know a lot about ones because it's where I go in stress.
Right.
And so these detractors are something I can completely relate to. But what I would also say to the ones, this probably applies to the 8s, or for those of us who have a direct relationship with a type 1, is that I know the ones in our realm, they are smiling a lot of the times on the inside.
Oh, of course.
It's just what's coming out on the outside. And so it's once you get to know them. And so, but you're right. If we're presenting this information and tips and things that we can do to make sure that we're leveraging our natural gifts, it's to remember to do that more often because it's something that's easy to forget.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to type 2, our helpers. So their strengths are empathy. They're engaging. They have a deep desire to connect. They're very sincere and loving. And their detractors they can be very self-conscious and too other-focused versus worrying about everything else that's going on with all the others.
Yes.
They can often lack confidence if they're not feeling appreciated. Appreciation's a big deal for the twos, and they are oriented to help other people. And so it's listed under the detractor. It's hard for me to read that because I think that that's a strength as well. But when it comes at the when they don't put themselves into that, they can be so helpful to others and not even consider themselves. That's when it becomes a bit of a detractor for the twos.
A good question for a two is, who are you doing this for?
Yes.
If you have a two in your life who complains about not having enough time or,
not feeling appreciated.
That's right.
Yep.
Ask them, who are you doing this for?
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And then what to cultivate twos when you're working on your natural gifts is your self-confidence, and to remind yourself of what you do well and what your strengths are, and to certainly pay attention to what you think and feel as much as you do others. So you can tend to really rely on what others think and what others feel in their ideas, but you need to also rely on your own thoughts, which is interesting because that sounds similar to what nines need to do as well. And twos, you need to speak to your real needs versus what you think the audience wants. And just be you. I see that you put that note here. And I think that's critical because often twos can, they'll tell you what they think you want to hear.
That's right.
In order to please you, which is not the worst virtue in the world. No. Unfortunately, you're not being as authentic with what you really think or feel, which means you're not giving yourself the ultimate chance to be the best version of yourself. So that's our twos.
Okay, our beloved twos. All right, let's dive into the type 3 achiever. Let's start with their strengths. At their very best, and you guys know type 3s, they can be awesome performers. Very confident, goal-directed, and concerned with overall effectiveness. You want a 3 on your team. Mm-hmm. When it comes to detractors, they can be very image-focused, which can inhibit their ingenuousness, so it doesn't feel genuine.
Right.
They're not being honest, potentially. And because of this, they have trouble connecting to their real feelings, and they can be very impatient if you are ineffective. Mm-hmm. What do they need to do to help bring out those natural gifts? Tap into their genuine feelings. Really try to feel. And I get this as a 9. We don't do this either well. So tap into your genuine feelings. Give yourself permission to speak about your emotions. I've led many 3s, over the years, and this is a thread I can say I absolutely have seen. Aim for sincerity when speaking to others and seek a deeper connection with yourself and with others. Dear 3s, let yourself be vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely.
You do not have to be perfect. Nobody expects you to be.
Yep, absolutely. All right, type 4 are individualist. So their strengths are they have a desire to connect, emotionally intelligent, they're empathetic and intuitive, and they can be very authentic, almost...
Very authentic.
I don't know what the extreme word for...
The genuineness, yes. They're there.
They're there, yes. And their detractors, they can be very self-critical. They tend to focus on what's missing, and they're focused often on what's negative. And they also can be very self-focused and can be melancholy. They can just be in their own little world of... basket of emotions. They can just be hanging out with a bunch of stuff going on in those noggins of theirs. And so what they need to do in order to cultivate their natural gifts is to focus on the positive. They have this in common with the 6. Those 6 and 4s can kind of go to that worst case scenario a lot. In 4s, you need to remind yourself what is going well and what you do well. Tell the truth in the way people can and want to hear. And it's not that the 4s don't tell the truth. They'll just dance around what needs to be said because they're so tied up in how that might come across. And so obviously they need to use, because 4s have these special gifts, the intuitive and the empathy, And so you need to use those gifts for good.
That's
because
right.
that is, those things about a 4 are golden.
Oh, man.
But easily can go unchecked.
Yes.
So
Overall, 4s can change the world, right? They could make the world a better place if they're using their empathy for good.
sure. I mean, quite frankly, I think all the numbers could change the world. If, I mean, to that point, I was like, well,
Well, the 7s.
well, if everybody has their,
It's true. They're just so empathetic. They can.
I agree what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
All right. So moving into the investigator, which is type 5 strengths, they're very thoughtful people. I think that can probably go unnoticed. They're objective, independent thinkers, very logical and analytical. So again, someone you'd like to have around on a business, on a team. Detractors, they can be detached from their emotions, uncomfortable connecting with people. So while they're thoughtful, it's not something they like necessarily that makes them feel uncomfortable. Reluctant to share their feelings, overly private, and lacking in empathy. You know, when I was preparing for this, I was thinking that's what we call in the world a poor bedside manner.
Right.
You know, if you think about people who are so smart, they know so much about something and they have a poor bedside manner.
Yes. And the investigator, that's one of the top 5 is like, it is, you know, they are subject matter experts.
Yes.
And so you find 5s and doctors and scientists, and oftentimes they have a hard, because they're so in tune with what they know. So their IQ, that their EQ can go a little bit unchecked.
That's right.
So they struggle a little bit with that.
What can they do to cultivate those natural gifts? Express ideas in a simple language that people can understand to form the connections in your life. Try to create stories rather than stating the facts to engage audiences. I think that's a good tip, especially for people who are leading who are 5s. Think of your audience and how they might receive the information you need to deliver in a healthy way. Just be friendly.
Yeah. Good stuff. Okay, moving on. Type 6, the loyalist. Their strengths are they are prepared. They are analysts of the task at hand, naturally humble, and problem solvers. They're detractors. They're doubtful of ideas and outcomes. They can be indecisive, and that a lot of times comes from not having all the facts presented in a way that they can relate to them.
That's right.
And they tend to self-sabotage. And so they can be also seen as pessimistic at times because they can look towards the worst case scenario. And often when they're not in the healthiest mind frame. And so what they need to do in order to cultivate their natural gifts is to own their power and authority to build confidence, because 6s do possess an incredible amount of confidence and power. That they have it.
They do.
But it's that story, that inner dialogue sometimes can get in the way. So, and also you need to be 6s looking for evidence of your good work and trust in yourself.
That's right.
And 6s, you need to remember to feel the fear and move forward anyway. So the fear is okay.
That's right.
And then offer alternatives versus shutting down ideas to yourself, quite frankly, and certainly with others. And develop courage by relying on all that you have done to be prepared.
That's right.
They are the most prepared of the numbers, and that's a good thing. So
we have a 6 on the team. Her name is Jessica, and she says all the time, trust yourself.
Trust yourself. Yes, she
Trust
does.
yourself. I think that's good advice for the 6. Trust yourself.
Yes.
All right. Jumping into the 7, our enthusiasts. Maybe you guys are a little animated.
You guys.
The 7s. Maybe you guys are visionary and futuristic, future-oriented, which leads to being innovative and very engaging. What are your detractors, dear 7s? Unfocused? Does that relate? Scattered? Do you find that you're moving at a fast pace most times? Hard to follow? Impatient? Or overly positive? I think that last one is really interesting.
Overly positive, yeah. And that's, absolutely. Can relate.
Because the real is not fun sometimes.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We want to we like rainbows and glitter and, well, not literally, but.
Sunshine.
Yeah.
Yes.
No glitter.
Okay.
Yeah, I love rainbows, no glitter.
So the 7s are amazing. These are amazing people. You guys are rock on. Yay.
She's just saying that because she's sitting with an arm's length from one.
I love sevens. So what should sevens cultivate to bring out those natural gifts? Focus on one thing at a time. Listen carefully to others and restate what you hear to check for clarity. Consider what is important to your audience versus just you. Be present in the here and now. Slow your pace. Present both positive and negative data for a balanced presentation. So that checks that overly positive bit.
Yes, absolutely. Good stuff. I mean, all very relatable. And again, we're presenting this information so that these are reminders of where we need to be when people are going to receive our natural gifts from us.
Yes, in the best possible way.
The best possible way. And so just keeping that in mind. And I need to remind myself as I listen to you present that. So, okay, type 8 are challengers. And so their strengths are confidence. They're fearless with challenge. They have ease with power and responsibility, and they are passionate and convincing. Yes. And detractors, they can easily deny weak points, and they can lack vulnerability. At times, they can be overly dominant and not open to others' opinions, and they can therefore present themselves as being unapproachable. And sometimes they can deal with, they struggle with excessive anger. So that is the detractors to pay attention to, our dear 8s. 8s, what you need to cultivate is to be in touch with your vulnerable feelings and share them. And we have quite a few 8s in our lives, and we know that this is something that they're constantly working on. And
That's right.
And even if they're able to share those feelings and be vulnerable, at times they don't feel great about it.
Yeah.
And so it's not just the fact that they need to share, 8s, you need to share your feelings, but it's being okay with it. And sometimes it may come out a little messy. Sometimes it doesn't come out clean and tidy.
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. And so 8s also showing sensitivity and empathy when interacting with others, and share your softer emotions. Is, again, another way to say that. And care for and support others by providing positive acknowledgement by displaying openness to other points of view. So being open to other ideas. And I think 8s, and when in health, and again, I have a very strong 8 wing, so I can relate to a lot of this, it's being curious is the antidote to some of this. And I think that's important to remember for 8s, is curiosity can cure some of that need to be right.
And Danelle, those are really good points. Going back to that quote that we said at the beginning, it isn't the story you're telling, it's the questions you're asking.
Yes, absolutely.
So 8s, it isn't always the story. And really for all the Enneagram types, it isn't always the story you're telling yourself. It's really about the questions you're asking yourself or you're asking others. Yes. So for the 8s, the vulnerability is when it comes to the story they're telling themselves, maybe they should open up to others to ask some good questions.
Right. I agree.
Okay.
That's great. I think too, as we wrap this, I think it's important, and I think you mentioned this at the beginning before we dove into the details, is that this episode and this information that we shared today, yes, you should always check in on what your number is and the things that you need to remind yourself of. But I love what you said, and that kind of resonated with me as we were going through the numbers, is to really listen to this content with others in your life in mind, whether that's your work life or your personal life, because we need to remind each other of our natural gifts, especially if we see someone struggling, or like you said, they may not be struggling, but maybe they're going through a change, and that could be any number of 100 things. Right. Let's remind each other, in support of each other, of what our natural gifts are. And I think sometimes that's just a gentle nudge, or, hey, remember,
you're so good at XYZ.
Exactly. And so I think that's why this information to me really resonated, is that I can use this to be in support of the people, close to me in my life, and the people that I want to see win. So that's, again, why we decided to share this stuff today.
Good. All right, let's transition to music moment.
Okay.
All right. Please tell me, I know you do, but please tell me our listeners know who Leon Bridges is. Do y'all know who Leon Bridges is? Have you listened to him lately? Danelle, tell us about Leon.
Well, first of all, we
love him.
Our music moments are all over the place, but we feature, sometimes we'll talk about artists that either maybe haven't really, I mean, everyone, I hope, knows Brandi Carlile, and we certainly talk a lot about Dolly Parton and Adele and a lot of big names.
Yes.
And we did an episode where we talked about Maggie Rogers, and some folks knew who she was, but a lot of folks didn't.
That's
and they
right.
appreciated it and went and listened to her music and, shared some songs and stuff. So it was great. So Leon Bridges, to me, he's been around for a while.
Yes.
I mean, came onto the scene in 2015, but he wasn't born in Texas, but he was raised in Fort Worth for the most part.
Which is right down the road.
Right down the road from, obviously, DMA offices in Dallas. And so he is, if you don't recognize his name, I promise you've heard some of his songs, especially he had a groundbreaking song, River, that was featured in Big Little Lies. Mm-hmm. So, but I think he's 33 years old, and but he has the soul of, I don't want to put a number on it because I almost said someone in their 50s.
Well, I said
I meant
earlier,
more wisdom.
He's
he has
like
this,
a modern day Marvin Gaye to me.
right? And he says in interviews he really looked up to Sam Cooke, and so he doesn't sound necessarily like he's not singing music that sounds like a lot of what's being played today by people his age.
No, it's very original.
It's very original, and they call it neo soul, which I think is beautiful. But I mean, his artistry is unbelievable. So I'm glad that we're talking about him. And I did some studying up on him. I've seen him live, so it was an incredible concert. He has a way with the audience. He has a genuineness to him that is, it's palatable. And what was great is that I saw him in Dallas, so a lot of his family and friends were there, and he was acknowledging them, and then he was telling stories about his childhood and growing up around here, and it was just very interesting. But he was literally a dishwasher. He grew up very humbly, modest means, and was a dishwasher at Del Frisco's.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, while he was trying to make it, he was playing gigs around Fort Worth, trying to. Okay. And so then he had his breakthrough in 2015, and he's very humble, and not like he's. I wouldn't call him shy, but he's very. I don't know what the word is.
What if he's a 4?
Yeah, that's what literally was what I was thinking.
Wow.
Like deep with emotions, and his lyrics, writes most of his music. So if you go on to whatever your streaming platform is or look up his music, most of that music he has written himself, and it is extremely poetic and deep. In fact, we won't get into it, but Meg and I had a huge debate about the meaning of one of his songs. And she was right. It wasn't that I was wrong, because it was in my interpretation.
I'm in your interpretation. That was something else, and we won't get into those details. But
just ask us offline. We'll tell you. We'll tell you about it. But I just love the fact that he's stayed true to who he is as an artist. And the reason why I can make that claim is if you go back through his discography and you really listen to his music, and he does a lot of collaborations with people that inspire him and that make him think beyond his artistry. So I just think he's phenomenal. And the reason why we wanted to talk about him is because he's not necessarily a name that gets brought up in the mainstream. Don't see him on a lot of award shows or things like that, but he is truly a gem
he is.
of an artist. So if you're looking for some new music, or if you maybe heard a song or two and you're inspired, hopefully we can inspire you to take a little bit deeper dive into his music and his artistry, because it's certainly warranted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I added here in the notes, I don't know if you've heard this song, but everybody needs to go turn it on next.
Okay.
It's called July with Noah Cyrus. And it's Noah Cyrus and Leon.
Featuring Leon Bridges. Yep.
And it's a nice duet. It's a beautiful song. But he finds himself partnering with women. Noah Cyrus, I know he's partnered with Casey Musgraves just to show his range.
Right.
And sometimes it can go a little country.
Oh yeah, well, I mean,
I know he's from here, but I mean, like
he was heavily influenced.
Neo soul to country.
Yeah, he's
got a huge range.
Yeah, it's like Casey in a way that it has a very modern twist, but country's like
so good.
It's a foundational part of their music, but they make it more modern and interesting, I think. And I think I love country music, but it's a more interesting take. And doing research on him, I think it's hilarious. His name is, he's literally
Leon Bridges.
It's Todd Leon Bridges.
Okay.
So his first name is Todd. And for those of us of a certain age, his dad literally named him Todd Bridges because he loved Different Strokes, the TV show. And so and it was funny because he went by most of his life as Leon because he didn't want to be Todd Bridges. So I just thought that was a cute little fun fact.
He's super cute. I think he has. I only have seen him. I haven't seen him in person. I've obviously only ever seen him in videos, and I also saw him in. This is going to sound so cheesy, but I watched the Casey Musgraves Christmas special on Netflix. I think it came out in 2020 or 2021.
Yep.
But he was a major guest.
On
that, and I mean, he was cute and quirky and
right. I can't believe you don't have a note here because one of the things he's known for is his exquisite fashion sense. Which
his clothes, amazing.
And what I read is that he draws inspiration from, like he says, like the 40s and 50s when he's like when people used to get dressed up, when men would wear suits on the regular, and so he loves to be in that, I don't know, that retro look.
He's a cutie patootie.
Yes, he is. He is.
So y'all check him out. Let us know what you think, and we'll keep sharing information about artists that we love.
And we would love to hear
what you
like. And if you have a favorite Leon Bridges song, please let us know. And if you have a good connection with him. So
don't forget, we'll have some links in the show notes that are helpful to you. We'd love for you to tell a friend about the podcast. And until next week, we send you into the week with grateful hearts.
Goodbye, everyone. As always, you can connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Self Smarter Podcasts. You can also leave a rating or review if you enjoyed what you heard today. Not only does this mean so much to us, but it also helps other leaders and future leaders find our community. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us in becoming self-smarter. This podcast is produced by Snacks Media, and music is from a free platform. Well, that is until Brandy Carlisle reaches out to us to write the original score for our podcast. Friends, have a great rest of your day.